Welcome to the Women's Sanctuary, the podcast about tending the soul of women, sisterhood, and the rise of the sacred feminine. I'm your host, Arlia Hoffman. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Arlia. This is the Women's Sanctuary. And if you're tracking, you'll notice I didn't record last week. Between being out of town and being sick, it just didn't happen. So here we are. And I have a guest again this week. This is a friend I've known for a number of years. We've recently reconnected and both discovered we're each doing podcasts, which I think is awesome. So her name is Audrey Janshego. And Audrey was in corporate America most of her career until the company she'd been with for 15 years was sold and she was let go. She started freelancing as a virtual assistant and did that for a decade until a client hired her exclusively. After her father's passing and the onset of menopause, Audrey realized there was more to life than a corporate job. She is now on a path of research and discovery of where she wants to go next. In the meantime, she has started a blog and a podcast called Sass and Vigor. Welcome, Audrey.
Thank you for having me, Arlia.
So glad you're here. So the last time you and I talked, you were just beginning the blog and enjoying that. And that felt, I think at the time you told me, that felt good to have some place to write. Tell me what led you into the podcast.
It's something, I've been wanting to do for probably 4 or 5 years. In fact, I had some of the equipment just sitting in a box, and I said, "Okay, finally, I just wanted to do it." And it's kind of, I guess, being able to put some of this stuff, not just doing it in writing, but being able to also do it with my voice and being and like you're doing, interviewing other women in particular. There'll probably be some men in there, but just as a creative outlet.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned in your bio, the passing of your father and menopause, and I think the time of midlife is definitely one of the topics I explore, and I was wondering, how that plays in. And what that process was like for you. What did that awaken in you, and how has that gotten you where you are now?
Well, for me, I lost my mother 14 years ago, and it was fairly quick. Mm. It was as well with my dad, but I think where I am now, it just was this, life is too short. Because you just never know. And my dad admitted he really wasn't doing what he wanted to do until he turned 73 years old. And he died at 86.
Wow.
And I thought, boy, all the years that he stayed, and he owned a construction company, but it really wasn't what he wanted to do. And it just got me thinking. And I thought, okay, it's, and I'm like I said, I'm on that journey of figuring out exactly what that is. But I want to be in a place of, when I get out of bed in the morning, my feet hit the floor. I'm glad they're hitting the floor. And I'm glad to be headed someplace, to be doing something I enjoy that also brings joy to other people. I'm just not sure what that is yet.
I think a lot of us are in that position. Tell me about your thought process about where some of the things you've looked into.
Well, I looked into I love to cook. So I'm still and that's really, I'm passionate. And it's something that I've just really come to realize in the last, I'd say really the last couple of weeks, to be honest, when I'm really looking at, when I'm doing something, I'm totally lost in it, where time passes and I don't even realize an hour's gone by. So cooking is one of those things for me, be it baking or meal prep, whatever. I can do the same thing with gardening. I lose track of time. So I'm trying to really analyze anything that I do during the day. Where am I with it mentally? If that makes sense. am I tight in the chest, or, am I feeling just muscle tension as I'm doing it? Exercise not included. But, so it's hard at other times I find it frustrating that I don't know what my true passion is. And then I think a lot of us do this. We start to beat ourselves up. Why can't I figure this out? And then it's also putting relying on my faith to say, okay, I know, I've got to trust and open my eyes and my ears that something might be right in front of me, and I'm just being human and not seeing it or hearing it.
Right.
So it's work.
Yeah. I'm going to stop you right there. We're at 6:04. When you put your hands down, I think you're hitting the mic because I'm hearing a thumping noise.
Okay.
All right. So, I so relate to that. I mean, I remember after my midlife review, is what I'll call it, started fairly early, like late 30s, early 40s after my divorce. And it was also this sense of, given the opportunity to reinvent yourself is fantastic, and it's overwhelming.
Yes.
Because if you give yourself permission, then the world is your oyster, and then it can be overwhelming. And I have a feeling a lot of people are actually in that phase right now because of our society in being in such flux. Suddenly their job is gone, or they're home all the time, and they have the opportunity, or have been forced to have the opportunity, to review what their life is like, and if they enjoy it, and if not, what they would change. I love what you're saying about the checking in with your body and seeing if you're relaxed in it or if you're losing time. That's to me, the biggest clue of something creative that is you're in your own flow, is the cooking or the gardening.
Yeah.
What else have you noticed?
One of the things I like about it, and not being in the corporate world too, is I'm in control of my time. Mm-hmm. And that's important to me. So I'm looking at it from that aspect as well. And of course, monetary plays a role in it. I mean, I'm married, but we rely on my income as well. Mm-hmm. So I think that adds to the pressure of it. And I think that's why, if we don't take this time to do the research and just jump into something else, which I almost did, yet another corporate job, you're just not being kind to yourself.
Talk about self-kindness.
I'm big on, I've learned to be big on boundaries, because I think without them, you don't make it a priority. And I mean, even looking back at when, my mom and dad lived 600 miles away, they lived in Michigan. So when each of them were sick, it wasn't a just around the corner, go visit type of a thing. But there were times, where I had to say, I'm sorry, I can't come up there right now.
Yeah.
And I find now what I'm doing, is I kind of I like to use time blocking. And I will actually take a calendar and time block it out, so that my breakfast time is same time every and I don't allow phone calls, and I don't have my cell phone with me. Same with exercise. It's just, I think that's huge. Turning off the technology. I have to admit, at this age, I am overwhelmed by technology.
Yeah. I so admire you, because just being able to walk away from it is big at this point, because we're all addicted to it and attached to it 24/7. That's really, and time blocking, that's that is great. And like all my inner bells go off, because I pretty much don't do that, but I do without structure. Like I just, my body just dictates that for me. Like I'm not very good at interacting or meeting or being productive until about 10 or 10:30 in the morning. I just know that about myself. But I have not yet, gotten that much distance from the technology. But I love that you brought up boundaries, because it's a big piece of my work, what I had to do for myself and what I teach others.
Mm-hmm.
Because as women, we're certainly not taught boundaries. We're taught the opposite.
Yeah.
Of how to give and give and give until we have nothing left to give, and to put our needs last. Right?
Yeah.
Do you have kids?
No
Okay.
kids, just a dog. Not from lack of trying, but
And that's between that and work and partners. Those are the big areas where we're just, absolutely, if you're not exercising strong boundaries, I think most of us tend to just give it all away until we've got nothing left to give.
yeah. And I can't imagine what it's like right now, for parents with young kids, particularly younger children, of all being home, stuck home.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're not in your normal routine. The kids aren't in their normal routine. I think it's really important that both adults take a look at how they're structuring their day, being home all the time, and make that time for each of them to have their own time.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a webinar the other day with, it was a group, kind of like a walking group, but now we're Zooming. And one of the gals said, yeah, her and her husband, they've had to learn to trade off, that one day she's bad guy and he's good guy. And they switch when they need to, and they're making it, a goal's not the word I want to use, but, priority to each have alone time, to where they're not dealing at all with the kids or their jobs, and they can go do, even if it's just watching something on TV, binge watching something, but they've got that alone time. And I think that's important.
Absolutely. I had a therapist say to me not too long ago, just that they just drop those little nuggets at you.
Yeah.
She said, I just noticed that, you actually find some clarity and some creativity when you get enough alone time. And that was just a big aha moment. Not that I didn't know that, but just to hear someone else reiterate that for me, like, it's not just something you want to have. It's critical for my own self-care and for my ability to create. And I think that's likely necessary for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people think about it. They're in their routine. They're in their, how they've done things all the time, without looking at where they could take better care of themselves.
Yeah. I'm also thinking about what you said about, balancing, our own creative pursuits with income. I find that a big challenge for me these days. And it takes work. I mean, I think one of the lies we believe is that you find what you're going to do and you do it and you're going to make money. And you're going to, I don't know about today's kids. They may be getting a completely different message, but that's the message I got.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, definitely. And, I think the other message that we get as well is more from external. Oh, there's no way you're going to be able to make money doing that. Instead of getting the support, which then starts creating self-doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how do you work with self-doubt?
I'm bad about it. Honestly, I get mad at myself because I beat myself up. It's like, okay, Audrey, stop, get off this train. Yeah, I don't do real good with it. And it's also something I'm working on is just don't doubt. I mentioned it to a friend the other day about somebody else had said, you've just got to take the risks. You'll either fail or, you'll succeed at it. And she said, quit using the word risk. She said, call it an inspirational opportunity. She said, by calling it a risk, it's already got a negative connotation to it. And I'd never thought about that before.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
But it resonated when she said it.
Inspirational opportunity. I like that.
Yeah.
That's like, it's not a problem. It's a growth opportunity, right?
Exactly. Learn from it.
Yeah, damn those growth opportunities. I mean, I think we've got more than our fair share at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree.
How have you been navigating COVID 2020?
Turning off the TV has been a big thing. I'm not a big news watcher anyway. I haven't been for probably the last 5 or 6 years. I'll watch it just to get things that happened in the world. And a friend will say, did that happen when? It was even as much as a wildfire in California or an earthquake or something that I didn't know about. But yeah, media to me, don't even get me started on that one. That could be a whole nother podcast.
Oh, we can go there. I have family members who are glued to the TV and I can't handle it.
No,
and I feel for them because I feel like they're swimming in it and they don't have a chance to experience or think anything different.
No, exactly. And so much of our media today is, I don't know that we can go any place and get true, honest what's going on. It's so sensationalized and it's every channel, it doesn't matter what you're watching or listening to on the radio even. It's just
my favorite example is the Weather Channel. So back in the 80s when the Weather Channel debuted, it was a ticker tape of forecasts, maybe some headlines, and a lot of elevator music and maybe some graphs and some commentators, but it was, my parents would turn it on for the elevator music and just have something soothing in the background. Well, now they're as sensationalized as everybody else, right? Mm-hmm. World's worst storms, or disasters caught on tape. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It is programming. It is brainwashing.
Yeah. And it's almost, it's like some of the commercials that are out there. Do they think we're that stupid?
They do.
But people are buying into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the COVID, okay, that's, I just limit my media and try not to get, it's not my personality to really get in the gloom and doom. Mm-hmm. I know everybody's tired of hearing, we're all in this together or whatever the phrase is. But I'm looking at this as an opportunity for a lot of people to slow down, reevaluate what they're doing every day, getting to know their children. It's when they come home exhausted from work at the end of the day, you're not your best and you're not giving your children your best. Yes. And I'm saying this from a place of not having kids. But I've seen it. I've seen enough of it to see it, and realize that I think in the big scheme of things, we're going to come out better on the other side. One of the things I've found frustrating for me is that the constant show of numbers of, who's gotten it, who's tested positive and all of that. And of course the numbers are going to increase because they're doing more testing. I mean, that's duh. But they're not comparing it to, say, when it started in the winter, or really March. March is when it really, they admitted it. But the numbers were already, I think, being accounted for. We still lose more people to the flu.
Yeah, and they don't put it in context. That's really, what I think you're saying is the context of not only, those numbers are those who've tested positive. That doesn't mean those are the symptomatic people.
No.
Or can you put that in perspective as to, at least in the U.S., what percentage of the population is that? Well, it's different than, what percentage of the population it is in Italy or Spain or France.
Exactly.
And I was thinking about this recently, after 9/11, there was some renewed criticism about the media being so U.S. focused that it was not just creating, it was confirming our echo chamber of the U.S. of, we are the U.S., we are the best. And briefly after that, their coverage became more global. But I think we're right back where we started. I mean, they have to look at the global situation of the pandemic, but they're still so focused on, what the U.S. is doing, what our problems are, that we lose the perspective of how we fit into the world, except for maybe all the criticism of how badly we're doing things, or, and global criticism of us. But, I feel like we don't get a true picture of anything, really.
No.
I mean, I don't care what side you're on. I feel like we're living in I'm going to say this, in a propaganda state at this point. And so I haven't said that out loud, but that's been my premise, from which I say it all comes back to you, right? And what's true for you, and that's the only thing that you can really rely on, right? Is your own experience and what's true for you, and how you choose to operate. Yeah,
that's very true. And unfortunately, if there is something we want to know more about, we've got to do our own research. It's just,
and thank God we live in the age of the internet where we can.
Yeah.
It is out there.
Yeah.
I want to know something.
Exactly.
It's kind of the difference between, cooking your own meal and heating up a TV dinner.
Woohoo! How long has it been since you heard that?
Yeah.
I remember the Swanson's dinners when Mom and Dad would have their date night on Saturday. We got the Swanson's chicken and mashed potatoes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we would have those every Sunday night. We would all have our little TV trays and our TV dinners, and we'd watch, I think we would end up watching Masterpiece Theater because it was the only thing on Sunday night. So that's dating me. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's right. I just did too.
So I don't necessarily long for the good old days, but I do feel like we are, it's definitely an invitation to simplify our lives.
Yeah. And it, I'll go back to my comment regarding technology. I'd almost like to see restaurants say, leave your cell phone in the car. Leave your iPad in the car. You don't have to be on it 24/7. And I think it's sad to see kids on them so often. It's like, well, rather than having a conversation with my kid, I'll just give them a device, and that way they won't bother me. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a big starting point, is just reducing the time. When you hear about we had bullies in school too when I was growing up, but when you hear about the bullying on Facebook or Pinterest, come on, it's, there's a lot in this world right now. I just want to,
You want to go fix it?
I want to fix it.
Well,
yeah, I think.
Well, speaking of fix it, you told me recently about how you were kind of backing up and instituting some boundaries and not feeling the need to fix the world. How are you doing that? How do you do
Well,
that?
apparently I'm not, based on my last comment. One of my emails addresses, without saying the whole email address, it actually is not my problem.
Yes, I emailed you at that one many times, and I loved that.
And sometimes I just have to remind myself it's not my problem. I can't fix it. I can't carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. The things I can fix, then I make an effort to fix them. But all I can do, and I think that's probably part of why I even started the podcast, was to throw topics out there and maybe get a discussion started. Either with, it may not be with me, but two other people having a discussion about what they heard. Can't fix. I can't. There's a lot of things that I think are wrong, but it's my opinion. I also have to remind myself that's my opinion, and not always the opinion of others.
Mm-hmm. I listened to the episode about turn signals.
Oh, yes.
That was very funny. I have a feeling you have a lot of stories like that.
I do. And that's, and part of that was, I guess, I'm a very linear thinker, but I have this humorous side to me. In fact, it's one of my top 5 character strengths. And I want to use some more of that. Mm-hmm. It just, I think we all could use a little bit more humor and that's, when you really, I'm one of those people where I guess I look at the day-to-day things, and even there was also one on bodily functions. I don't know if you got a chance to hear that one.
I saw the headline. I didn't listen to it. I was almost afraid to hit play.
It's not bad. But it's instead of always looking at the bad, look at the good in some of the stuff. Look at the humor in it. You just got to. Otherwise you're just in this, I think you're kind of in this, I don't want to use the word depressed, but just in a funk. Mm-hmm. If you don't look for the good and use more gratitude, even for just the littlest things. I've recently gotten to where on my desk, I've got a gratitude bowl. Mm-hmm. I've got little sheets of paper that sit there, and when it hits me that I'm grateful for it, I write it down, throw it in the bowl.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's so important because that brings perspective.
Yeah.
And I know there are some people who'd feel like they don't have anything to be grateful for right now, but there is. If you're looking, you'll find it.
Yeah.
And speaking of the humor, I was just watching, and I don't remember her name. I'll have to put it in the comments in the show notes. There's a woman who's doing like these time travel YouTube videos where she's visited by her future self, and it's pandemic updates. And so her April self visits her January self, and her June self visits her April self. And the one I just watched was her October self visiting her June self. And, the June self is like, it can't get much worse than this, can it? And the October person's like, well, and they're freaking hilarious.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that. I'll have to listen to it.
They're so funny because it's, and I love people who can find humor in even that black humor in even the darkest of topics.
Yeah.
And I think we really need that. So I wholeheartedly encourage your humorous podcast because I think it's really necessary, especially for people of our age.
Yes.
Mature women who have seen a thing or two and lived through a lot. how do you feel about the stage of life?
Wow. In some aspects, it's not where I expected to be at this age. I thought I'd have it all figured out by now, and I don't.
Yeah.
But it's on the flip side, what I really like about it is I really don't care about someone else's opinion about what I'm doing. That ship has sailed. I don't care if they don't like the way, I'm not wearing my hair just right, or I'm not dressed, I'm not dressing like I'm the age I am. So I think it's bringing, there's more freedom.
Yes.
I had a quote for a while at the bottom of one of my email addresses of, I'm trying to think of how it was written, but it was along the lines of, if you're always looking for somebody's approval, you're their prisoner.
Ooh.
And that resonated. And I think that's true of a lot of, when you really think about it.
Yes, you've given that person a lot of power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. I remember a little bit of echo. I remember at about 50, I got up on my birthday and I wasn't expecting this to happen, but my wardrobe suddenly changed. Like I suddenly felt this freedom to just dress however the hell I wanted to. So, funky hats, funky skirts, scarves, whatever the hell I wanted to wear. And I noticed a couple of years later, I woke up around my birthday and felt that same shift of just shedding any regard for other people's opinions.
Yeah. That's funny you bring that up about the wardrobe. Because I recently was cleaning out my closet, and I am, I would say my prior self was more, I'm not going to, not tight fitting, but just fitted outfits more, and now I am just as comfortable in what I like to refer to as my moo-moo dresses.
I love moo-moo dresses. The big, I don't know what to call them, kind of the flowy prairie dresses.
Yeah.
Are in.
Yep.
And I will give a shout out to Constance Hall on Instagram, Mrs. Constance Hall. She's a woman in her, maybe she's in her mid 40s, but she is designing and selling, and she's in Australia. She's designing and selling clothes for women of any size, but really women who are a little bit bigger, who are, and she's designing things that are sexy and comfortable and made for their build. And she was showing one of these. She has in her line a couple of these big flowy dresses, which are just gorgeous. And she would, either wear them loose with cowboy boots or cinch them. And I was in a boutique here a couple of months ago, and I found one similar, and I snatched it up. I'm like, I had to pull out the credit card for that one, but it was absolutely, because it was going to it has become a wardrobe staple.
Yeah,
because it's like the modern incarnation of the moo-moo, right?
Yeah,
I wear it and it's like a tent, and I feel great and I look great, or I can cinch it if I want to. It's about. I've been doing that lately too. It's about redefining your style, because not only is that cycle, right?
Yep.
Your energy impacts your style, but your style impacts your energy.
Yeah, that's very true. And the reality of it is when I hit menopause, my little midsection there I don't know, I got all kinds of friends hanging out over there, but just
hello, me too.
So I had
we got a party going on.
Yeah, and it's just okay. But it took me, honestly, it took me a little bit of time to accept that. But now I love it, because I wear what's comfortable, and I wore a lot over the summer. I wore a lot of swing dresses.
Mm-hmm.
I like the cut on them. They're comfortable. That's kind of my go-to.
I'm wearing one now, actually. Yeah. That's one of the things I've been doing too. Cleaning out my closet where I am currently sitting, and just really willing to get rid of anything that doesn't just wow me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I to, what's her name? The organizer, Maria
Kondo.
Yeah. She says, put it in your hand. If you don't love it, or if you don't like the way you feel when you've got it on, get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be happy wearing it.
That's been hard for me because I look at some of this, and things have changed in the last year, right? I mean, I look at some of the stuff in my closet that was for corporate work.
Yes.
Like, I'm facilitating a workshop. I have to look a certain way, and half of that's just going to Goodwill because I don't need it anymore, and I also don't care.
Exactly right. And it is so freeing,
Mm-hmm.
just to let it go. The only wardrobe comment that I probably, when they came out with the leggings or jeggings and all of those, now I wear them,
Mm-hmm.
but I wear them with a top that's a little bit longer in the front.
Yeah.
For a reason. It's just, yes, that's my personal taste. I'm not judging anybody else because they wear them with a crop top, but
I take a lot of inspiration from women who are wearing what I would think would be a style for a different size woman.
Yeah.
And I just take so much inspiration from them going, okay, you are fearlessly just doing whatever you want to, and you look fantastic because you feel good in it. It inspires me to be more bold in my fashion choices. Those are hard habits to break.
They are. They really are.
Like we're, fish swimming in the water, just all this cultural conditioning that is hard to let go of and recognize to let go of.
Well, I think it's one of those things too that we need to teach, particularly our teenage daughters. They can live outside or dress outside the norm. I mean, there's certain, but I think it's even from and I really don't know how many teenage magazines. I'm trying to think of the one I grew up with. Fashion, the fashion magazines.
For me, it was 17.
Yeah, 17, exactly. And everybody was skinny and everybody wore just this or that. And I don't know if they're still that way or not. I would like to hope not.
Well, there's definitely a body neutrality and body positivity movements that are helping with that. And I think it's really interesting too, because a lot of the, the fashion and the entertainment industry has so changed in the last 9 months that they don't have the platforms they once had to push a lot of that. So I would hope that's changing.
That's true. I hadn't given that any thought, but you're exactly right. They're not able to push their agenda because nobody cares and they don't have the media to do it.
I'm just, from a psychological perspective, I'm just intrigued by how the entertainment industry is coping or evolving way outside the scope of my training or my knowledge. But as an observer, I really am curious. Like there's very little production going on, and how are they scrambling, and how are influencers anyway. So that's kind of the stuff I watch, is how people are coping when suddenly their industry is gone.
Yeah.
I would like to think that would be some positive evolution of how we interact with entertainment, but who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. That's going to be an interesting outcome, especially when they're, at this point, they're still saying, we're going to be wearing masks for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to go away.
No, not at all. And I was listening to Seth Godin this morning, and his last podcast episode was on Zoom. And he said, the pandemic pushed the evolution of online meetings 3 to 5 years, like that into now. What would have taken 3 to 5 years to evolve. And he said something about the next 5 years. And I don't think he meant, I think how I took that was like the pandemic's going to affect how we work and how we work together for the next 5 years. And I thought, wow, I haven't heard anybody say that, but that feels feasible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's been what's, I had a neighbor who sent me, a link to her grandson who's at, I want to say he's at University of Tennessee or Tennessee U. Anyway, somewhere over there, but he's in, very much in the media and band and chorus and what have you. And they did a Zoom choral piece. So they're all in their own homes, but they brought it all. It was absolutely beautiful. And I've seen somewhere the North Carolina Symphony, for instance, has, done that. It's not being face to face, but it's giving an alternative method.
Yeah, it's absolutely spawning some creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, our local symphony did performances on stage that they live streamed, or if they recorded, but they sent it via live stream to, all their ticket holders.
Yeah.
And my friend said, we were just sitting on the couch with a glass of wine and the cat was in our lap and we were watching the symphony. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I certainly hope for all the performers and artists out there that they're able to find ways to it's that word pivot, find ways to perform and also to make money.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm seeing, advertisements here for like pop-up art shows, all outside and limited number of artists and that kind of thing. But I'm glad to see that because they can't live in a shell for, they've got to make money. They've got livelihoods too. And, yeah.
So for your artistic endeavors, you said you're cooking and you're gardening. I guess the gardening may be slowing down, or are you planting a fall garden?
No, it's slowing down because I kind of, when it hits fall, I actually welcome it, just as a time to start winding down. Yeah. So, yeah.
So I read your blog. So less posts about gardening and more about cocktails.
Yes. My goal is to put a cocktail on there every Friday.
Oh, nice.
That's my goal.
That's awesome. Well, my husband and I will look for that and make our weekly cocktail.
Yes. I think, well, sadly, I'll openly admit, I think wine and cocktails are part of what's got me through this COVID thing.
Absolutely. We've been, trying to, I guess, as in the summer, trying to safely find ways to go out. And there were, but everything closes so early, which is kind of a throwback.
Yeah.
But we found this, speaking of drinking, we found this one bar that's open till 10 p.m. and we could go in about 9:30 and there would be maybe 2 people in the place, and sit at the bar and have a drink and talk to the bartender. And
yeah,
I mean, just those little bits of interaction are so nourishing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's probably been the biggest, well, not biggest, but one of the bigger damages, with regard is human touch, cause I know even for my husband and I, my father-in-law just lives one subdivision over. And when this first hit, we wouldn't even, we would phone conversation only, or he wanted to come over and it's like, okay, but you're gonna have to stand out on the front porch and we'll talk to you. But, we don't know if we're carrying, he's got health issues. Yeah, that was, and here our bars aren't even open.
Yeah. Ours are, and I hope they, at least if they're safe, I hope they can stay open.
Yeah. They were saying,
I know in the UK, they're getting more strict. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I think that the last I heard that they were going to open them like 30%, but outside seating only. So who knows?
Just in time for the cold weather.
Yeah.
Well, what's next for Sass and Vigor?
I don't know. It's every day's a new day.
Are you enjoying the podcast?
I am enjoying the podcast. Yeah. And especially when I'm not doing I haven't interviewed anyone yet. But they're just short, they're 3 to 5 minutes. That's it. So, it's been fun thinking about the topics, and, I can be in the middle of something and I'll have this thought of, oh, that's a topic. So I have to write it down. Also at this age, I purge files too quickly in my head. So I have to write it down.
I understand. I like that. Purging files.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've collected so much. I've collected so much information over the years that the filing cabinet's full. So, only the really important stuff stays in there anymore.
Well, one can hope.
Yeah.
One can hope. Well, Audrey, it's been a pleasure catching up with you and talking to you about all sorts of stuff.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me, and wishing Sacred Women they're much success too.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So for people who want to get in touch with you and follow your podcast, where can they find you?
At Sass and Vigor. The podcast is Sass and Vigor. So it's SASSANDVIGOR. Or you can visit me at sassandvigor.com on my blog.
Okay, great. And that has both the blog and the podcast?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Links to the
Any
podcast.
social media you want to share?
It's in the works. I haven't gotten all that up and running yet. So more technology.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
I enjoyed talking to you. If you are looking for more episodes of the Women's Sanctuary, you can visit Apple, iTunes, Google, Spotify, Spreaker, anywhere you get your podcasts. You can like and subscribe. I'd love to hear from you if you have any comments or requests. We appreciate all your feedback. For Audrey and I, thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you here again next time on the Women's Sanctuary.